and welcome to Let's Talk About Books, baby, where we talk with your favorite LGBTQ authors. This is Anita Kelly, and my guest today is Angie Williams. Hi, Ange.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. It's always fun talking with you. How's life?
It's good. It's hot.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really hot. It was like 104 yesterday, and
Whoa.
our air conditioner broke.
No.
So it's like not working today.
No.
So yeah, it's been we've both just been kind of like laying under fans.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, the
rough.
guy's supposed to come in the morning.
Hopefully.
It never used to get hot here. I mean, we didn't have an air conditioner for years.
Really?
Yeah, and then because I mean we live pretty close to the coast, and we live west of Sacramento, and it gets blazing hot in Sacramento.
Oh,
so kind of like how in the summer you can never see the Golden Gate Bridge because it's just fogged in all the time.
Yeah.
Like the very worst time to go to San Francisco is the summer.
Yeah.
It's cold because it's so hot in San Francisco, and the heat pulls the fog from the Pacific Ocean in, and we are in that fog belt. So we're not so much as San Francisco. You know, we're about 45 minutes from the coast, so it doesn't get as cold as that. But we do get that. We're in the fog belt, so we do get that cool down. So. You know, I grew up in Texas. It was hot all the time, at night, you know, all day. Like, you really just never got a break.
Yeah.
And here, every evening, it gets pretty cool every evening, even if it's blazing hot during the day. But
I would like that.
So we used to never get really hot, maybe 1 or 2 days a year.
Yeah.
It would get kind of in the high 90s, you know, low hundreds, and I don't know, probably around 2017.
Yeah.
That changed, and there's this little thing called global warming and
yeah. How about
climate
that?
change. And,
you mean that's real?
Huh?
I said, you mean that's real?
Oh yeah, right. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's like every summer, and we got air conditioning in 2017 because. We were just like, we just can't. We used to like fill the tub up halfway with cool water.
Yeah.
And then during the day, like we would just, go lay in the tub for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And cool off, and then we get dressed and walk around the house.
Yeah.
But especially now that we're working from home so much, it's
needed.
We need, and we have dogs and, creatures that need some coolness.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I live in the Northeast, and we don't have those change of seasons like we used to. It seems like we have like a very short spring and we go right into summer, So yeah, it's
that's and we used to get all of our rain in the winter, like January, February, March was just constant rain. I remember when Megan first moved here, my wife Megan first moved here from Michigan, and it rained for like 45 days straight.
Whoa.
And she was like, what the hell did you do? Like, why did you bring me to this place that it's just raining and flooding? And
it's like living in Oregon.
What's that?
That's like living in Oregon.
Oh, I know. My grandparents live on the Oregon coast. They have since I was really little. And, in Oregon, they don't tan, they rust.
I like that. I've never heard that.
Bump.
I like it. That's cool.
Yeah, that's where we're actually planning on retiring with the rest of the Californians. Northern Oregon or Southern Washington.
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
nice.
We can try to escape the fires.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. You guys have been through some of those already, and Colorado again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
have a friend who grew up here. We live in Sonoma County, which is about an hour north of San Francisco.
mm-hmm.
And I have a friend who grew up here and then moved last year, I think, to Colorado,
Oh.
and almost like within a month almost lost her house to the fire.
Oh, yeah. That's so sad. My sister-in-law's nephew and his wife lost their house, and but luckily she was home and got they have dogs and horses, and she got everybody loaded up and out. And he was able to meet up with them. So they were all safe at least, but they lost everything.
We thought we were going to lose our house in 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2019. And we were evacuated for over a week.
Wow.
And it's really interesting when you're in situations like that because, you look around at your house and you think, oh man, I would miss this. And it would be heartbreaking to lose this. And it absolutely would. But in that moment, when you're in the car and you have everything you care about, like really, that really matters, like all the living, breathing creatures that matter to you
Yeah.
are in the car with you, and you're safe. That's really, it really is all that matters.
That's home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All that other stuff is just stuff.
It's just stuff. And yeah, it would absolutely be heartbreaking. And
Yeah.
I feel terrible for people that lose their homes and that it's displaced, they're displaced for, who knows how long. And
Yeah.
like, it was right across the street from us. It got right across the street. Our neighbor, we live in a court, and the neighbor across the street's backyard was on Good Morning America.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that was a scary thing
That's
to see
close.
on the news.
Yeah.
Isn't that Debbie's yard? Well, yeah, it is Debbie's yard. Okay, well,
Wow.
that's good. That's not good. Like,
Holy
we thought
smokes.
for sure that our house was gone. And they, like, all of the, we live next to our house borders a 250-acre regional park. Over 90% of the park burned.
Oh my goodness.
And if it had gotten into the neighborhood, it would have taken out our entire little town. I mean, it just would have, swooped right through.
Wow.
And, but they got all of the fire departments in the area and focused in that regional park. And they were able to, I mean, there were like a few houses on the perimeter that were lost, but they were able to stop it.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it was so emotional when we were allowed to come home. The firemen were out there on, like going into our little development.
Yeah.
They were out there with signs that said "Welcome home," and
Aw.
man, it was just, we were just bawling, and
I'm
people were
sure.
stopping and hugging them, and
Oh my goodness.
we're all very appreciative of first responders here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that sounds just like overwhelming,
Yeah. Well, and that's, Megan was like, when we retire, she's like, I don't want to be running from fires when we're
Yeah.
old, like
Yeah.
that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. So
Can't deal with the stress for that long. And it's sad because it's so beautiful here, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So Angie, for our listeners who don't know, do you want to tell everyone who is Megan that you're speaking of?
Megan O'Brien, who is she's also an author.
Yeah.
She writes my favorite books.
Aww.
That's why we met, as I was in her fan club.
No way.
Yeah, I was in her. It's not really like a fan club, I guess, but she had a Yahoo group, and I was in her Yahoo group, and I was actually married at the time. And I wrote a little thing in the Yahoo group, and this is like before, so this was when she was just writing stuff online. She wasn't published yet.
Okay.
So
this was some time ago.
Gone to Academy of Bards, and read a bunch of authors' stuff on there, and it was kind of my introduction to lesbian fiction. as it is to many people.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so this was in 2000, like 2004. And anyways, so I joined her Yahoo group because the Yahoo group got like special stories that weren't, were only in the Yahoo group.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, so I posted this little, it was just like 2 or 3 paragraphs about going to the sex shop Good Vibes in San Francisco with my then wife, who I'd been with for 12 years. And I, just kind of, it was just kind of this funny story about something that happened at Good Vibes. And she messaged me. She ended up messaging me, and she was like, hey, and she, was in a relationship. And she ended up messaging me and was just like, hey, I really liked the thing that you read, and, thank you for sharing it. And it was really funny, and, blah, blah. Anyways, we became really good friends.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I'll fast forward, a bit later, and we were both single.
Yeah.
And we were best friends, and we were like, hey,
Wow.
I like you and you like me.
How about that? Were you still in Texas at the time?
Oh, no, I was here.
Okay.
She moved out here.
Okay.
I imported her.
Okay. She's a Midwest
I
girl,
didn't want to date any of the lesbians here, so I decided I would import one from Michigan.
Mail order
I know
bride.
what I was getting into. No, I'm teasing. Those Midwestern girls.
Yes. Yes.
They seem shy, but they're not.
Uh-huh. Yeah. How about that? Oh, that's great. I never knew that story. That's a great story. Wonderful. Great.
I still fangirl over her all the time. So.
I hear that. That is so sweet. Really. That really is. How long have you guys been together? Since
almost 17 years. It'll be 17 years next month.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We all the time were like, first of all, how is it possible that we've been together that long? And second, how can we be that old?
Don't talk about age. Yeah. Well, happy anniversary a month ahead of time.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So you have, like, with that whole fire story, that's good fodder for a nice lesbian novel.
Right? Yeah. I know. I've thought about that.
Have you?
I have, but I don't know. Like, it's kind of like, I was in the Coast Guard when I first got out of high school. I joined the Coast Guard. And that was during Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think now about even, writing a Coast Guard book, because I love, I loved a lot about being in the Coast Guard. I'm super proud of being a Coastie and being able to contribute in that way. Like, not to take anything away from any of the Department of Defense services, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel that the Coast Guard is kind of a unique, special group of people, because they're, I lived it. Like, I saw what they put themselves through, and I was stationed in Alaska.
Oh,
and so I wasn't, I know it's kind of a different thing if you're in Florida. And my uncle is in the Coast Guard. He was stationed in Florida. He's like, don't let anybody know that you're in the Coast Guard because they will hate you and blah, blah. I was stationed in Alaska, and I don't think I ever paid for a drink. Like,
wow.
People, like, and all along, like, I think that the West Coast, all the way up into Alaska, they love Coasties, because all of them, like, we would come into a bar and they would find out we were in the Coast Guard, and they would all just be like, oh, my brother, got saved by Coasties, or my uncle, or, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, they all had these really terrifying, interesting stories about, thinking that there was no way they were going to survive. And then the Coast Guard, shows up and plucks them out of the situation. And so they're all just super appreciative. And, I don't know, that gives you just a good warm and fuzzy about being part of that organization.
Yeah, and the Coast Guard doesn't get all the recognition that the other military sects get, right?
It doesn't, because it's not Department of Defense.
Aha, that's why.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a branch of the military, but it's not Department of Defense.
Okay.
But what I was going to say about that was that I would like to write this Coast Guard story, but being in during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and this of course wasn't just Coast Guard, this was any military service.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a relationship at the time with Jody, who was the person I was talking about before that I was with.
Uh-huh.
I've only had 2 girlfriends, and I married both of them.
That's great.
And so, Jody and I were in during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and it was this constant fear that we couldn't let anybody know. We couldn't let our friends know. We couldn't let anybody know, because you just never knew.
That sucks.
Like Jody had a really good friend that she trusted and ended up telling, and then she was getting out of the Coast Guard in her normal time.
Mm-hmm.
It was the end of her enlistment, and he wanted to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And he still had like a year or 2,
mm-hmm.
and they were like, no, we're not going to let you go early. You signed up for this amount of time. And so he got mad and went to the command and reported us.
Oh my God.
And it could have been bad. Like, it could have really, really, really been bad. Thankfully, we were very fortunate in that the command, the guy he,
mm-hmm.
reported us to, was basically like, well, is this, so you're saying you knew this for years? And he was like, yeah, I've been friends with them for years. And he was like, okay, so we'll prosecute you.
Yeah.
For knowing for years and not saying anything unless you want to retract your statement. And
Good.
so, we lucked out because that guy, but because
that
of
guy
that,
knew a dick when he saw one.
Like, it's hard for me to, like, I almost have to keep the Coast Guard in this box and then being a lesbian in this box.
Yeah.
Even though I know that now they can live completely out and open and it's beautiful and, but it's hard, it's hard to get over that fear. And I think that is the same with the fire, at least at this point. Maybe once I retire and I'm not living here, but every year we're afraid that every time the wind picks up and it's hot.
And that's trauma,
It is. It's absolutely PTSD. I mean, everybody here feels that way. It's just, you just never know. And the fire seasons are getting longer and longer.
Yeah.
They're starting earlier, they're stopping later. And
yeah.
So, I've wanted to go to P-Town, to Provincetown
mm-hmm.
in Massachusetts for years and years and years. Like, I've always wanted to go, and I can't because it's in October.
Yeah.
And September, October are the worst.
Yeah, the driest
and the windiest, and so that's like the most dangerous time. And so we can't go anywhere during that time. So
yeah. Oh,
anyways,
but that
maybe someday I'll look back and not be as connected to it, and
yeah, and
write.
Hopefully that would be wonderful. Yeah, and you can write about it maybe, and maybe that would be cathartic for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And that tells me about your connection to Alaska also, because I was going to ask you about that, because you have this book coming out very soon.
Yes, August 16th, which is the day before my wife's birthday.
Ah.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy
Megan.
birthday, Megan. So August.
I didn't write this one for her though, but
it is called Love and Other Rare Birds, and it actually is set in Alaska, right?
It is, yeah.
And so how did you decide on that setting?
Well, I've always loved Alaska. I grew up in the desert in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said before, my grandparents lived on the Oregon coast in Coos Bay, and they ran a marine biology camp when I was a kid. So
cool.
that was a super awesome summers to spend just kind of free reign running around wherever I wanted to go on these acres and acres and acres of redwoods and slough, and going to the beach every day. And it was a lot of fun. But
that's cool.
So I grew up in the desert, and I used to watch shows like Northern Exposure or nature documentaries about Alaska. And I always wanted to go to Alaska. So when I joined the Coast Guard, I scored high enough on the ASVAB, which is a test you take that kind of decides what job you can do in the Coast Guard. So, if you score, really high, then you have more choices. Like, and if you score like a certain amount in electronics, then you can go into electronics or whatever. Anyways, I scored high, and when you score well on the test, they want to give you incentives to join. And so I scored high enough that they were like, okay, if you join, we'll send you wherever you want to go out of boot camp.
Nice.
And I wasn't a fan of Texas. Now that I'm older, I'm able to kind of separate the bad from the good things about Texas, I mean, there are, believe it or not, good things about Texas. It's not the politics of Texas. Yeah. That's the worst. Yeah. But I wanted to get as far away from Texas as I possibly could. And I mean, Alaska seemed like the best option. So,
whoa, that is far away.
So I went up there, and I was on a ship in the Bering Sea for a year.
Cool.
And then I went to navigator school. So I was a navigator of a 378-foot cutter, and was stationed in Alameda, California, which is right outside of San Francisco, on a ship that went to Alaska. So we would go to Alaska to the Bering Sea for 3 months, and then we would come home for a month, and then we'd go to the Bering Sea and back and forth. But so I basically spent about 4 years in Alaska.
So that's very cool. So
yeah, on Kodiak Island. So I was stationed on Kodiak Island where the bears are.
Oh, cool.
And it was just, I mean, I remember getting off of the plane for the first time, and I was just, I mean, it takes your breath away.
Yeah.
It's unreal. Like, there's a crispness of the air. And I mean, it's like you're watching something in HD.
Wow.
You watch shows in HD, like, let's say a nature documentary or something, where it's just beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And you're like, man, when I go, walk outside, like, there may be mountains here or whatever, but it's just, there's something almost unreal about that. And that's how Alaska is. It's just incredibly, incredibly beautiful.
That's on our list of places to visit.
Yeah. Well, Megan had never been, and for her 40th birthday, we went to, we did a cruise, and I was very kind of against doing a cruise because I was on a ship, and she was like, look, they're not going to make you polish brass. You're not going to have to get up in the middle of the night and stand a watch. Like, it's going to be cool. And so it was my first cruise, and we did it in 2019.
Did you like it?
So we got in just in time.
Yeah.
Before, all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so nice to be back up there. And, some of the excursions we did were basically just hikes, through, like wooded areas, and we saw a bear. We were like really close to a bear at one point.
So is that,
I mean, not dangerously close. Like there was, we were there with guides, and, the bear was kind of in water, a bit off, but close enough where we could take pictures and see. And, it was a fairly safe situation, although Megan was holding on to the hoodie of my jacket. Like I was gonna just suddenly stand up and walk towards the bear. She was like, she's like keeping me back.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah. So is that something you could draw upon for your book, Love and Other Rare Birds? That experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about it.
Just being there, you know, like a lot of the for me, I feel like the scenery and the setting is almost another character.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helped me. Like, I don't know if I had never been there, if I would have had the same feelings. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely, yeah. Because
been able to, like, I could
felt
talk
it.
about, I could write something about somebody going to, Australia, but I've watched a lot of shows set in Australia, but I wouldn't know, like, that experience. I wouldn't have that emotional connection to it. So I do think that it helped kind of bridge that, emotional connection.
So tell our listeners about Love and Other Rare Birds. What is it about?
Yeah. So I got to think of how to describe it without giving everything away. Megan's always like, don't tell everybody everything. They're not going to get the book.
It's a great book, by the way.
And I will say that my lovely wife came up with the title, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, it's a nice
I love
name.
the title.
Yeah.
So it is about an ornithologist who has kind of lived in her father's shadow her whole life. Her dad, when she was young, her dad had his own nature show, and she would go on these adventures with him during filming. And so she had a lot of experience with, that kind of thing. And then as she got older, when she was like in her teens, her dad ran for a congressional seat or whatever. No, he's a senator. He was a senator.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really turned, like their relationship turned, and he became this, politician,
Mm-hmm.
and not that guy that he was before. And so they kind of, there was kind of a rift between them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they love each other and whatever, but it wasn't the same. So anyway, she's always kind of been in his shadow because he was this famous biologist. And so she really wants to prove to herself and to everyone that she can be kind of important and successful on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that, she knows that. So she works at a place that I made up, but is basically the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
Okay.
In Monterey, California.
Yeah, that's a great aquarium. We were there.
Yeah, I love that aquarium. So she basically works there and takes care of the seabirds, and so she wants to promote and possibly be on the board at some point. And she knows to do that, she's going to have to do field work. Mm-hmm. To be taken seriously, she's going to have to do field work. So she hears about this bird that she's always been fascinated with, called the northern curlew, which is an actual bird.
It is.
It's more commonly known as the Eskimo curlew, but it's also known as the northern curlew. And I just felt like northern curlew over Eskimo curlew was more appropriate. Mm-hmm. Because I think Inuit people don't really want to be called Eskimo. It's the name of the bird. It's not, but
yep.
I don't know.
Have you ever seen a northern curlew? Northern
curlew is what I call it in the book, which is a less common name for the same a bird called a Eskimo curlew. Mm-hmm. So just like in the book, in real life, this bird used to be extremely common. It was everywhere. They had this gigantic migration from, I believe, South America all the way to Canada and Alaska. And but there were no restrictions on hunting them because there were so many. And so not only were they overhunted, I mean, they were like pigeons, right? They were everywhere. Not only were they overhunted, but their habitat in the Midwest states that they would pass through became farmland and no longer had the, food that they needed, because they basically needed grasslands. And so, as all of that was farmed, there became fewer and fewer of them. So the last confirmed sighting is in the 60s, and there was a reported sighting in the 80s, like mid 80s, but there was no confirmation.
Okay.
So the last confirmed sighting was in the 60s. So she hears that there's a sighting of this bird that is on the very likely extinct list. So she jumps at the opportunity to go up there and see if she can prove, like, if she can prove that this bird still exists, then that's huge. That's a huge career, move for her, and could get her everything she wants. Like that's what she's always wanted, something like that, the notoriety and respect.
She could say, "Ha ha, take that, Dad."
Yeah, exactly. Sucker. So they send her up there, and they pair her with a park ranger named Rowan Fleming, who is kind of a recluse. She's like she's a pilot and kind of lives off the grid a lot. Grew up. She's half Inuit, so she grew up. Her mother was like a village leader, like a town leader, and so she grew up and kind of learning to live off the land and everything else. So, but she is really more focused on rescues and park ranger stuff in that way, not
birds
hanging out with this scientist, being the scientist's donkey that's going to just carry all of her stuff, like that's not really what she had in mind.
Yeah.
And so she's a little frustrated that they are assigning this to her, and kind of blames it on the fact that Jamie, who's the ornithologist's father, is this, famous person. Like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Of course you're going to get what you want. Of course they're going to bend over backwards for you. Anyway, so there's some tension because of that. But they're out there for months, so they're basically out there for the summer, looking for this bird. And they during that time, they just kind of learn to put their preconceived notions about who the other one is, and learn to look a little deeper. And I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a chance they fall in love with each other.
Yeah. Those two characters were seemingly opposite, right?
Yeah.
So, I was thinking, it made me think of that old adage, opposites attract. Do you think there's something to that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because Megan, and we interviewed with you after this, but Megan and Aurora Ray and I just did a novella collection called Opposites Attract.
Yes.
But yeah, I do think there is something with that. I think that, and I think, like, for instance, with my ex-wife, and I don't think this is why we didn't last, but but we were much more alike.
Okay.
And Megan and I are opposite in so many ways. And it's interesting because, I think that my first marriage there were like a lot of wonderful things about it, and being alike in so many ways helped in that, we both like to build things, and we both like to fix things, and, we like to do kind of these same things. And Megan would never fix anything. Yeah, I mean, she'll fix something if it's like on a computer. She's a nerd, and she'll fix like computer things. Super smart, incredibly intelligent, but she is not somebody who the door on the washing machine isn't working. Mm-hmm. She's just going to call somebody. Mm-hmm. Where I'm like, my dad like raised me where, you got to try. Like, you
don't call somebody for that.
And Megan gets so mad at me because she's like, God, can we just call somebody? I'm like, no, I can do it.
Yeah.
We're just very different. Like, I'm an extrovert. She's an introvert. Mm-hmm. And, and from her perspective, she says all the time that with me being an extrovert, I'm able to kind of carry that the conversations mm-hmm. and let her kind of build up to that.
Mm-hmm. Take a back seat a little bit. And
yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I think Megan is coming home right now.
All right. Mama's home. And the kids know
so
it.
I think that, yeah, the that helps, like the opposites, being opposites really helps.
So do you know anyone who are similar to Jamie and Rowan? Like, were they based on anyone that you knew? And if so, or even if not, like, what kind of character development did you do for them?
I think I don't think Rowan, I don't think either one of them is really like us, other than their banter.
Okay.
So I think personality wise, mm-hmm. They're made up people. Like mm-hmm. Maybe there's some similarities here and there, but their banter and kind of how they interact with each other, I think there is a lot of that kind of resonates with how our relationship is. Megan read it after, so you write a book, and then you go through the editing process and blah blah blah, and then they send you the proofs, which is like, okay, this is your last time to read this, and it's like looks like a book, because sometimes when they put it into that book format, it gets a little wonky. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, last time to read it before it's going to go to the publisher, so you can catch any little mistakes that happen. So when it was at that point, that was the first time Megan had read it, was when it got to the proofs part.
Oh.
And it was funny because she said to me, like all through the book, she kept saying, this is totally what I would say to you. This is totally something I would say to you.
Okay. So you really, like, I don't know, captured your relationship, that back and forth. You were able to do that and put it on these characters.
Yeah, I love that. I love it in books that I read from, other authors. I love it. And I do it in the, and I hope that the personalities of the characters are different, mm-hmm. but I think that banter, like when characters can banter back and forth with each other, I think that just shows a closeness.
Yeah.
That it would be hard to capture without that.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're definitely right. And I have not quite finished the book, but I'm almost finished with it, and I really like it, and I like both Rowan and Jamie. I really do. Yeah. Yeah, they're great. Really, like, when, I won't spoil anything, but when it started out, I wasn't so sure, but yeah.
Like with Jamie?
Yeah. but it's
Yeah,
good.
it's so
all
funny
good.
because I'm a lover, not a fighter, and um, and so I struggle with that. Like Megan loves to write angst, man. She's just like, oh my god, angst is my favorite part. And for me, angst is like, oh god,
It makes me
I want to get to
anxious.
the kissing part.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I want to get to the part where they're flirting and they're kissing with each other.
yeah,
But there's no conflict, if that's what you do.
yeah.
Like,
Right.
it
Yeah,
would be an awfully short novel because
yeah.
there's no conflict. So,
Right.
um, I this is the first book I've done where there was this is my first book where there was kind of this angst between the characters in the beginning, and so I was trying to find a balance. Like I
Hmm.
wanted them to kind of both be a little short with each other,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to drag that out.
And you want your reader to like them, right?
Right.
So yeah, no, you pulled it off. Great
Oh,
job.
good.
Yeah. No, really, you did a great job.
Good, good, good.
So I'm imagining, Angie, you didn't have to do a whole lot of research in terms of setting. But did you have to do other kinds?
I had to do so much research with birds because I just really, I grew up with a parrot.
Yeah.
But, it's very different from birds in the wild.
Yeah.
And I've just never really, I think birds are beautiful and I've found birds fascinating, but I've never really done research on them. But, at one point, Jamie talks about an albatross.
Hmm.
And when my son was younger, we used to take him to the Monterey Bay Aquarium all the time. It's 3 hours away, but we had a membership because he just loved it so much.
Aw.
And anyways, we went one time and they had an albatross, and I thought it was just such a fascinating bird. And so she talks about, I really wanted to convey like how nerdy this was for her, like how passionate she was about birds, because I think when anybody's passionate about whatever they're passionate about, like when they talk about it, it's kind of on an emotional level. They're not just spitting out these facts that like they're reading it off of a page. Like, they're talking about it like, oh, like you can hear or feel the excitement in their words, and that's hard to do when you're writing a book because it's not, it's not like somebody is talking to you.
Yeah.
So I really tried to make that, like, kind of show that passion just, with words on a page, about how excited and fascinated she was.
Yeah.
I mean, because to dedicate your life to birds, right, you'd have to be pretty geeked about them.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I I'm reading this book, right? And it's about what is it, an ornithologist?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just met somebody, we were talking, and she's like, I don't know, and she's like, yeah, and my sister's an ornithologist. I'm like, what? It was just like so random, like, yeah, it's not like someone
That's
you meet every
awesome.
day. Yeah, I know. So, will there be a sequel to this? Like, or have you ever considered writing a sequel?
Probably not.
Okay.
I I don't know. Like I haven't written anything yet that I feel like, oh, I could totally do a sequel for this, or this would be open for a sequel. I mean, I wouldn't be against like writing something short,
Okay.
but the vast majority of the book, almost the entire book, they're completely alone
Yeah.
in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
With nobody around.
Oh, there
And
was a
so
bear.
A lot of times with sequels, there are characters introduced
Yeah.
that then those characters will get a book.
Yeah.
And they're just, unless I give the bear a love interest or...
Yeah. All right. Don't go there. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And that's how a lot of sequels are born, is through the secondary characters
Yeah.
having their own story. Yeah, definitely. So, what is next for you? Or like, do you have anything in mind?
I
This.
do. I actually just signed a contract
Whoa.
with BSB for my next novel, which the first draft is due December 1st.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
soon.
Huh?
That's soon.
I know, right? I mean, part of me is like, oh, I've got time. And then part of me is like, oh my God, I can't, because I tend to think about it and write a little bit here, write a little bit there, but I don't really put myself on a schedule. And then at the end, it's kind of a mad rush, panic to get it turned in.
Yeah.
Especially during the pandemic, man, I got to tell you, it was not easy to write a book during the pandemic, because you're just, man, it's like, it's so weird. I mean, it's just so weird when you're not interacting with people, you're not.
Yeah.
And then to write this, it's like, you kind of don't even want to think about people living in a world that it's so much better. I guess they're not dealing with this, but anyways, I mean, not that the pandemic was like super horrible for us. It was totally fine. Like, I, got locked away with my best friend.
Yeah.
So it could have been much, much worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although we did end up with 4 dogs by the end of the pandemic, because it's impossible for me to say no to Megan.
Oh yeah.
And so we just kept acquiring dogs.
Oh, that's great though. They must have, a lot of animals kind of got shoved aside during the pandemic.
Oh, I know. And now it was hard to get dogs during the pandemic. Like, we really struggled to find dogs to adopt, because all the shelters were cleaned out, and
I heard that. And now it's hard to get vet appointments.
Yeah. Well, and now it's hard, and now they're overwhelmed by all the dogs that have been returned.
Are you serious?
It's just hard. I mean, we love our dogs and would never give up our dogs, like, to go get another dog.
Yeah.
But
that's so sad.
But it's so sad that now, I mean, we follow all these different rescues on Facebook, and it's like, I mean, they're getting every single day. These rescues are getting 5, 10 dogs left with them, like,
goodness, yeah.
And then they're trying to get dogs out of shelter, not shelters, but dog pounds, because they're they're over full. And anyways, what was the question? I'll go back to the question.
Well, we were just talking about writing during the pandemic, but the original question was, you said you had this book coming out. That was, the first draft was due December 1st.
Yes. So this new book is called The Only Fish in the Sea. And so I'm still working out the details, but basically it's going to be about a crab fisherman.
Cool.
A woman who has like been raised for generations of she's like in a long line of crab fishermen on the Oregon coast.
Very cool.
And then the other main character is also is the daughter of like a rival fishing family.
Ooh.
So there are these two families that are fishing, and I mean, there's a lot of fishing families in this community, but these two are like big rivals with each other.
Yeah.
And so these two fall in love with each other.
That sounds great. It sounds like a great story.
Forbidden love.
Yes, definitely. The Hatfields and the McCoys come to mind.
That's right.
Wow, that's great. So
it's fun. It's fun doing research for that, because that is also, it's the Oregon coast. It's not Alaska, but I was around that a lot, like crabbers and being on the ocean and coastal towns, stuff like that, I just are near and dear to my heart.
So, Love and Other Rare Birds comes out August 16th.
Yes.
And how would our listeners obtain that? Is that through Bold Strokes?
Yeah, I think August 16th is when it comes out on Bold Strokes, through Bold Strokes. And then usually it's a couple weeks later, I think, it comes out on Amazon.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it's like the first of the month or something.
Yeah.
Is one and later is the other. I don't know. But yeah, cool. So I really, really enjoyed that book. And listeners, I would highly recommend it. Pick it up. It's another great one.
Thank you.
From Angie Williams. Yeah, no, keep writing.
I'm really excited about this one. Like, I love my first two books, but I'm really excited about this one. Like, I feel like I hope I'm like kind of hitting my stride.
Yeah, that's great. And you're jumping right into another one. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
really is. So, Love and Other Rare Birds is what number of publicated books?
3 published that are just mine, and then I was in that novella collection.
Oh yeah, and that was great too. That's called Opposites Attract, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So, Angie, will we see you at the Golden Crown this year?
Yes, I will be in Albuquerque this year at GCLS. My dad actually, my family homesteaded north of Albuquerque, kind of closer to Taos and Santa Fe, like up in the mountains.
Yeah.
In the mid 1800s. So
cool.
My dad, I have a ton of family in that area, and my dad was born in Albuquerque. He lived in Boston for years, and now he is back. He's getting ready to retire, so he's living in Albuquerque again. So I'm actually flying out there on July 2nd, and I'm gonna hang out with my dad, and we're gonna go up to our family cabin in the mountains.
Nice.
That almost burned. Speaking of fires, New Mexico fires.
Jeez.
I mean, it literally came up to right behind, like the trees behind our cabin burned.
Yeah. Oh,
and then it went up the mountain, burned our family graveyard from the 1800s.
Oh my goodness.
But, we can clean those gravestones. We were just extremely fortunate that it didn't burn our cabin. Linda Sandoval.
Yeah.
Her family is also from that area. It's like a canyon over.
Okay.
So we've decided we're cousins.
Probably.
Even though we're not probably not genetically connected, but she her family lost 4 of their 5 ancestral homes.
I remember that. Yeah.
Just heartbreaking.
Yeah, that really is.
So I'm gonna go visit my dad, and we're gonna go up and hopefully clean the gravestones and rebuild the fence, around the graveyard, and and spend a little time up there. I mean, that's that's since before. I mean, I went up there when I was still in my mom's tummy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then Megan will fly out on Wednesday night. So Megan will be at GCLS also. And then we'll be at Hotel Albuquerque in Old Town, where the thing is.
Awesome.
Yeah, until Sunday. So
we'll enjoy.
Just a thing, if anybody listens to this and I see you in Albuquerque, I'm terrible with names and faces. So people come up and go,
just
hey,
the warning.
Like, hi. And I go, the face looks so familiar, but I cannot put a name to this face. Yeah. Please don't be offended.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I am so good with faces. I recognize someone from grade school walking down the street in my neighborhood, but names, I'm bad.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like if they're like, I'm the one that has this dog, I'll be like, oh yeah, totally.
Oh
okay.
yeah, right. Oh yeah. Wow. Well, enjoy the conference. That sounds like.
Are you going?
No, I am not going
Oh,
this
that's a
year.
bummer.
No, yeah. No, we were just out in Utah, so
Nice.
yeah, that was nice. So yeah, a lot going on here. So, but enjoy and
Well, you will be missed.
yes, I will miss you all. So, but thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And listeners, be sure to pick up a copy of Love and Other Rare Birds by Angie Williams. It is a hit. You're going to love it. It
Awesome.
comes out August 16th. So, yeah. So,
Thank you so much
Hey.
for having me.
Thank you. I'm Anita Kelly, and thanks for joining Let's Talk About Books, baby. Until next time, may your journey be lighthearted, peace be plenty, and be safe, folks.